If somebody has trouble
Mhm.
digesting fat, what would your recommendations be to make it easier?
Yeah, because I had a person that I met who was saying that every time they eat red meat, they almost like get diarrhea like crazy. And I was thinking
Mhm.
that maybe they're having difficulty sort of absorbing or digesting the fat, and that it's sort of almost going like straight through them. And so I wanted to know what would help that person,
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, are they were they trying carnivore, or were they just at any time eating a mixed diet they get
No,
something?
they were basically trying to be vegan, and then every now and then when they cheat and have some meat, then they'd say like, "Oh my word, I got such diarrhea," or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Well, when you're there's several answers to that, and it all depends on how they're eating it. If they're eating that with fiber and with plants and things like that, and not just having a steak. Depending on what you eat, it changes how your body is able to process food as well. Fiber is going to delay the and stop the absorption of all sorts of things. And you have a lot of plants and protease inhibitors and other sorts of inhibitors on your digestive enzymes that will stop you from being able to digest these things properly. And that's a baseline. And if you haven't been eating fat for very long, you haven't been eating, high protein, actual bioavailable protein, then your pancreas isn't going to be tuned up to expel a lot of lipase and protease enzymes to break these things down. And so it's going to say like, well, Jesus, where is this coming from? It's going to start going. And now if they kept eating meat, day after day, their body would respond, and their body would be able to then make the requisite enzymes. And so, but if they're so infrequently eating this stuff that they're never giving their body a chance, because your body doesn't just make a whole bunch of random chemicals just because. Very efficient. These things take energy, and if you just squander energy, you die. That's the way of the world in the wild. And so, it's something that we see. I mean, think of it this way: you go the other direction, you go on a carnivore or keto diet. People say that, oh, this is making you it makes you insulin insensitive. It's actually damaging you. You're becoming almost like pre-diabetic, because when they go back to eating carbs, they do like a glucose tolerance test, and they basically drink a sugary drink. Um, they get this big spike in their blood sugar, and they're like, oh, look at this, your body's just not handling this. But the thing is that your pancreas, if you're not eating a bunch of carbs, keeps your insulin levels very low. Whereas if you're eating carbohydrates, it actually produces a lot of insulin and just keeps it in beta islet cells ready to go, because it knows you're going to need it. It's an anticipatory creation of this insulin. And if you don't use it, eventually it'll just get reabsorbed and won't be used. But if you are eating carbs all the time, then it has a lot of it ready to go. So you eat a bunch of carbs, it goes right, and you don't get much of a response when you're still sensitive to it. And so when you're not eating carbohydrates for a long time, you don't have that insulin ready to go. You're going to fail your glucose tolerance test. But the next time you eat, have glucose tolerance tests or eat sugar or carbs, you'll have much less of a reaction, and it will get down to normal very quickly if you start eating carbohydrates again. So it's the same sort of thing in reverse. Your body's just used to eating certain things. It's making enzymes and things like that requisite to break down those certain things. It could certainly be the fat as well, just not being able to absorb the fat. I mean, they should have some bile ready to go though. And so that at least should be there. But if your lipase isn't coming out and breaking this stuff down properly, well, then they're not going to be small enough for for the bile to emulsify and turn into micelles and then get absorbed into the lymph as chylomicrons. So it's not going to be possible to do that even if you do have bile. So it's I think there's a combination of things there, but that in that particular case, that's what that sounds like. So but if they kept eating meat, they'd be fine,
Well, that's
Okay.
great.
especially if they didn't eat fiber and plants and other poison with it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and if someone's had their gallbladder removed, does it affect how you should eat your fat? Should you try and space it out, or does it not?
Yeah, it can do. Yeah. Yeah, it can. And for people that don't have a gallbladder and full stop, then yeah, they'll probably have to space out their meals because their liver will still create bile. That doesn't change, but it's not going to be stored in the gallbladder. So it's not going to be concentrated there and then squirted out when needed. And so you're going to need to, so it's going to just be dripping out sort of constantly, just slowly sort of trickling out into your small intestine. And then you're just going to have to sort of eat fat throughout the day and sort of catch what's there. And then later on, when it sort of builds up a bit, do it again. But some people make what's called a pseudo gallbladder, which is just an outpouching of the common bile duct. And it actually just sort of sits there and hanging like a gallbladder. And it works very similarly. And so it's sort of interesting, but that it does that. It's kind of cool. But they don't need to do that. So you'll see people that have their gallbladder taken out and they can eat, OMAD and just a big fatty steak and just fill themselves to their full, and they don't have any problems. They don't get diarrhea or anything like that. And so, that would be those cases, but not everybody forms that. I don't know I don't know what you'd have to do to help stimulate that body. I think it just happens, I'm sure something triggers it. I don't know what that is. I don't know if you could replicate it, but some people get lucky. If you're not in that camp, then I think you just space out your fatty meals throughout the day.
Oh, that's very interesting.